fucking so stupid, man. And so my next point, what I'm bringing into this is the same sort of topic. I guess we're just sort of discussing this together. Is milkshaking. So, for people that don't know what milkshaking is, this is a new phenomenon that's happened over the last sort of 3 months, and it's sprung out of UK. It's where someone essentially gets a milkshake, like a McDonald's milkshake or a Burger King milkshake. It fills it up and then throws it at like people that don't agree with politically. So there was a UK election that was on, and the results were the Brexit Party won, I think. That was originally it was a UKIP party, and then who's that guy? Nigel Farage. He split into a new party because UKIP. Actually, it's weird. It's a long story, but UKIP hired all these YouTube people to be in their party who are conservatives, but they're also they've said some things that aren't the best things politically, so their campaign got smashed. So he went to a new party, and that party won, which is great. Anyway, the whole point is these people that they're milkshaking aren't just people on the left, they're people on the right. And the people that have done it to are Nigel Farage, Tommy Robinson, who's like an anti-Muslim dude, who hasn't specifically done things that are racist, but he's just got some ideas about questioning how...
It's a bit edgy with what he says, but like, yeah.
He's edgy, but he's not like causing for people to be hurt or violence against. Same thing with Nigel Farage. And Sargon of Akkad, who's a YouTuber, who he's just a bit of a troll, and he says some stupid stuff from time to time, right? So this happens, and there's not outcry, there's not much conversation. There's a bunch of articles written by lefties. So one of them was by Vice, where the Vice one, right? Let me just read this quote. This just sums up the article and their positioning. Milkshaking's power lies in the sheer ridiculousness of the situation. Someone's thrown a milkshake at you. A milkshake! That's silly as hell. As a direct action, an instance in which political activists or regular-ass people who are fed up with the state of things take matters into their own hands through either violent or non-violent means. Milkshaking is both effective and sophisticated, robbing its target of any dignity while emphasizing the illegitimacy of the noxious views. No one's getting injured. What the fuck? How stupid can that be? All I have to do is replace the word milkshake with acid, or replace the word milkshake with nails or a gun or a bomb. There's no, just replace that specific thing, and it's like, oh, no one's really getting hurt. You're just getting a bit of acid thrown.
Well, no,
you're getting a gun.
I think, the most effective way to flip this on this person's head, or just highlight how wrong this is the victim. Okay. So right now you think this is okay. It's just silly as hell. It's just a really, effective and sophisticated way of, making your point. Well, what about the Greensboro sit-ins? Okay. Back in the day, earlier in the, the 1960s, well, the early 1960s, there were a bunch of people protesting the fact that Woolworth had whites-only lunch counters, right? So there were a bunch of people doing sit-ins to protest that. And you know what happened to these people, these black people, and people supporting these black people? They had milkshakes poured on them. You see a photo of that, and you don't think it's silly as hell. You don't think it's effective.
I think it's racist as fuck.
You think it's fucking terrible being surrounded by people who hate you, pouring milkshakes on you to take away your dignity, okay? It's to do something to you. It's to interrupt what you're saying, not address the validity of your views or debate it. You're just trying to take away someone else's dignity. Like, how fucking dare you? And these people are such idiots to think that, it's sophisticated. What do you mean? This is the oldest shit in the book, man. When you were in a fucking, what did they used to call those things? Those stockades, those wooden things that you were locked into in medieval times. People would throw shit at you to degrade you. That's all it is. It's the same thing since ancient times. This ain't some new thing. This is the disease that's entered modern lefty journalism. It's just a bunch of word salad. It's like, oh, great. You know what? You've got an excellent grasp of the English language. You know what? You do have a very wide vocabulary. I'll agree. You're eloquent in the way you write, but it's all just word salad in the end. All you're trying to say is, at the end of the day, the ends justify the means. Someone you don't like, you don't want them to speak. And to get to that point, you don't care how you do it. A milkshake, it's silly as hell. No, actually, it's quite degrading. It's undignified. What if it was a cup full of shit? Is that still just silly as hell? Who are you to tell me what substance is or isn't okay to throw at somebody?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what Vice said, right? It says another article you can look up called "Is Throwing a Milkshake an Act of Political Violence?" and what political theory tells us. So this isn't just someone that's just a vice writer. This is a Malta Today. That's the website. But this person, their title, I don't know how they got this title, but is a researcher on political violence for the University of London. This isn't just someone that's just a person has an opinion. This is someone who's an expert. And they said, if the right or public opinion more widely is prepared to call milkshaking violence in inverted brackets, then it must be prepared to call things like hate speech violence too. So what they're trying to say is exactly what you're saying, Eric. So the end justifying the means. So their argument is, if you milkshake someone or you did some sort of act like this to someone who potentially could have been Hitler or been some really evil person, so you stop them by using this act of political violence, then therefore it's justified. It's justified to stop these bad people. And that's pretty much the antithesis of their argument. They're constantly saying this. If you speak to anarchist people, anarchist writers, they'll just like, yeah, this is why we do this. Because we're going to stop fascist regimes by using fascist tactics.
Well, the ironic thing, I suppose. Is this ironic? Well, the thing about saying, well, if you're going to call milkshaking violence, you've got to call hate speech violence. The whole point, it's ironic because the whole point of calling milkshaking violence is to contrast that to speech you don't agree with, which is non-violent, which should be protected under free speech. It's ironic that this person is saying calling milkshaking violence automatically ropes in hate speech as violence, when the whole point of it, pointing out that it's violence, is to differentiate it from speech you don't agree with. What is hate speech? It's not that hateful speech doesn't exist, but it's like, what is it? How do you regulate it? How do you define that as something that goes beyond protecting the protections of free speech? Usually it's whether it incites violence or not. And inciting people to throw milkshakes at people, it's inciting a type of violence. It might be a minor form of violence. It's still violent. It's still wrong.
It's still violence. Yeah, it's still violence. But the people that have been milkshaked or egged or whatever the hell of it, Australia's we've got the egg phenomenon. In UK's got the milkshake phenomenon. How it started, it's definitely spread for these specific people. I can just say I'm going to make an assumption. Yeah, it's spread by these people because that's what's the core of their political ideology, right? This is the ways that we can disrupt and get back and do all this pranking. And I think it's harmless pranking, but it's not pranking. It's leading to a bigger issue, right? But one thing they don't realize or see, right, is they're targeting specifically everyone who's center to maybe far on the right, yeah? So it's a bunch of people on the left or super far left attacking people violently through these means, people in the center or to the far right, correct? So that's what they're doing right now. But one thing that they haven't considered is that people on the left, right? These are studies at psychological profiles and different things they've learned about people that are left and right leaning, right? Their general standardized breakdown is that people on the left are more likely to do something like this, right? But people on the right, if this is to happen to them, they're more likely to own a gun. They're more likely to retaliate. They're more likely to follow through on what they're doing. So if I had an option to be the piss off someone sitting in the center, piss off someone on the left or the right, I wouldn't want to piss off the person on the right because the person on the right is more likely to have conservative views.
That's right.
And stand up for themselves and fucking do something about it. And once you see this happening on the other end of the foot, once you see a bunch of guys throwing milkshakes at transsexual people or gay people, you will see absolute anarchy written online. It's because the people they don't like, I'm not on their team. It's like, oh, let's just support this idea.
Exactly. Well, the moment the other side starts doing this, they're not going to be okay with it. Pouring milkshakes on people, that's not going to be okay. The moment people they respect, people that they want to hear from are being interrupted, being shut down, having their dignity taken away, then they're not going to like this. And it's like you said, in summary, people on the right generally have more capability to do violence. It's pretty obvious whenever the Proud Boys...
And they're going to use it.
Whenever the Proud Boys end up in a brawl with Antifa, there's a bunch of people in Antifa with broken jaws. That's exactly what happens. Because you know what? People on the right are more likely to train hard. They're more likely to be typically masculine people. And they usually got guns. They're usually better at doing violence. So
that's the thing they haven't thought about. They haven't thought about that.
They don't realize they've actually they're taking advantage of people's civility in general. They think that we live in a very uncivil world. But as a matter of fact, they've been the beneficiaries of civility. So all these people walking around doing a lot of terrible things, these Antifa, these ultra-lefty types, they're getting away with it because everyone else is being civil. They're lucky they haven't had their heads cracked in, Really. It's hilarious.
But that's the thing.